I'm back again, guys. I just wanted to do a quick video where I talk about my experience with weed or cannabis. I know you guys have heard me talk on this channel a lot about alcohol and my experiences with alcohol. Well, I was thinking today about some content I could put out for you guys, and I had an idea that I should discuss my experiences with weed, and just really give you guys my history with weed or cannabis, my story, and basically my dance with Mary Jane, if you get what I'm saying. So, yeah, this is the purpose of this video is really just to give you guys my story and my history as far as weed goes. I was a big stoner for about 4 years of my life, and I just want to I really just want to reach out to anyone out there who's trying to quit weed, anyone out there who is still using weed or whatever, anyone out there who is interested in weed. I just want to give my story, and I hope someone out there can benefit from it. So let's get into this. I started using, or the first time I used cannabis was when I was 14 years old. I was 14 years old. I was with my dad and brother, and we were visiting Ontario, Canada, because my dad's side of the family lives in Ontario. So we were visiting there, and we were at a family reunion, and I was hanging out with my favorite cousin, and I remember just throughout the day seeing him constantly rolling up joints, and we would sneak off, and he would smoke his joints, and I remember as a kid growing up, I always had this notion in my head that weed was dangerous, that if you were using weed, you were reckless or you were stupid. I just always had this notion in my head that it wasn't safe and that you really shouldn't be using it. But I knew that people did use it. I just didn't really know anything about it. But here I was firsthand seeing some guy using it quite frequently, honestly, and seemed like he was having a good time. It didn't seem like he was freaking out. It didn't seem all that unhealthy. And I kind of liked the smell of it, honestly. So later that night when we were hanging out, we were outside kind of in some grass. He ended up rolling up another joint, and we ended up sharing that joint. And this was my first time trying this, obviously. So in all honesty, I really didn't feel much other than kind of a light giddy feeling and just an urge to laugh. I felt like it was really easy to laugh, and I was just very lighthearted, and I was having a good relaxing time. We were under some bright stars because we were out in the country, so you could just see every little star, and I think there might have been a meteor shower. So it was just a really good experience I had with my cousin, and I really enjoyed it. After I tried weed, though, I kind of just put it down and forgot about it. I never really thought about it much because at this point, none of my friends back at home were using it. None of my girlfriends or whatever, none of the people I was hanging around really condoned it or were interested in it. So I just put it down and didn't really think much of it. And then later on in high school, a lot of my friends started using weed more and more frequently, especially while hanging out after school and stuff like that. So I would hear about my friends getting together and getting stoned and stuff like that. And I just remember hearing about all their funny times and all their funny stories. They would go and do goofy things after getting stoned, and it was just always funny to hear about these things. I was super involved in wrestling, and I lived out of town in high school, so I didn't really get much of a chance to hang out like my friends did. In retrospect, that was probably a good thing. It kept me out of a lot of trouble. But I just I tried weed a few times in high school, and I always liked it. Like I would smoke with one of my good friends, and while we were up at our ski condo in between, like in the evenings after skiing, him and I would sneak out and take a walk or something, and we would find ways to smoke the weed and sneak it up there. And it was just always a fun time because we would get stoned and then we'd go back inside or we'd go and sit in the hot tub. And I remember just laughing super hard with this guy. Like it didn't matter what we were talking about. It was always just the funniest thing ever. It was just a great time, and I never really made a habit of it at this point, but I just remember all of my experiences with weed at this point were just super positive. I really liked it. It was always a good time anytime I did it. Okay, what's next? I'm just kind of reviewing my notes here. I spent the evening just kind of free writing, and I have a few pages here of notes that I wrote down. And I'm just kind of looking at what I got a lot written down here, so I just kind of want to give you guys the most important points. Okay, so after high school is when I really started getting into weed. A couple of friends and I moved into an apartment. My one roommate was a small time weed dealer, and he was a heavy smoker, so I constantly saw people coming over to get stoned. A lot of my friends were doing it, and my roommate was always back in his room. I could always hear him ripping his bong or sparking up or whatever, and I developed more of a curiosity towards weed because my younger brother was also very into it. So I continually joined in with these people, and it was always a great time. We always got stoned together, and I became of a frequent user, let's put it that way. And it got to the point where I was buying my own weed, I was smoking on my own. um when I started out, it was always a social thing. I was always smoking with other people. But once I got more into it, I saw it as kind of a means of escape. Like if I was at home bored or something, if none of my friends were around or no one could hang out, I kind of turned to weed to kind of fill that gap. It became an escape for me. It became a way to let loose. Um, and it got to the point where I was using it every day, and I had this caregiving job where I was taking care of people in a group home setting. And I just remember, um, when I started that job, I was working like crazy hours, like 80-hour weeks or something. And I just remember always looking forward to getting stoned after I got off work. I just remember almost drooling over the thought of just hitting that bowl and just relaxing as soon as I got home because I was so burnt out and so worn out from that job. I ended up tapering down to part time at that job, so I was basically just making enough money to pay for my weed and my bills. There was no extra, so all of my spare money ended up going to weed. I was spending like at that point about 120, $140 a week on weed. So you get the picture there. I was spending quite a bit of money on this habit, and it just became so ingrained in my life. I just got so used to being stoned all the time. It was just what I was used to. And then after that, I got a landscaping job, and I come to find out my supervisor's a big pothead. I didn't realize it at first, but one day we were riding in the work truck, and he just hands over a pipe to me with some weed in it because I guess he kind of knew because a stoner knows another stoner. There's just this weird thing where you can kind of tell if another person smokes weed. There's just something about him, and I think he picked up on that with me. So him and I ended up becoming good friends. And yeah, basically what happened to me is my whole lifestyle, all my friends, everyone I was around, everything was supportive of my weed use. Everyone else was doing it. It just seemed perfectly natural and normal. But over time, I ended up experimenting with all the different types of weed, hash, extracts, resins, edibles here and there. But I ended up really liking dabs because at a certain point I got kind of a high tolerance to weed. So I ended up really liking dabs for a while. And I think I was doing dabs for the better part of a year. And I remember once again just spending every spare dime I had on it because like I said, weed ended up just being a means of escape for me. I think deep down, I just wasn't happy with the way life was going. I think kind of in high school or whatever, I was searching on the internet and I was probing for things, probing into different mentors and stuff, and I kind of got exposed to this idea that you can do great things in life and that you can do more. There's more out there than just kind of the standard cookie cutter life that society gives you. So I knew this deep down in my gut, but I just didn't know how to actualize it. I just didn't know what steps to take to make this come true. I knew I had it in me to do great things. I couldn't figure out how to do it. And I remember having this woodworking job, working in a cabinet shop, and I remember I used to sand, use a palm sander and sand all the little wood pieces that we would make. And I would spend solid 40-hour weeks just standing at the same table sanding these things, and the work was so monotonous. I got into kind of these meditative states where I would just think about, what my life could be like, what I could really be doing, and I just ended up really getting down on myself because I started questioning, like, why am I here standing at this table if all these people on the internet and all these self-help people are telling me, you can do great things and all this stuff. So I think at the end of the day, weed was kind of a way for me to escape from myself, if that makes sense. I was able to escape from these critical thoughts I had of myself. Um, because at the end of the day, I really wasn't happy with myself. There were a lot of things inside of me that I didn't like. There were a lot of issues I had, and that's really what made me become a huge stoner for 4 years. It was just this denial and this rejection I felt inside myself, and I was just escaping from that. So anyway, guys, that's just a brief history of my use of weed. In 2018, I actually quit weed cold turkey, 100% cold turkey. That was when I moved to the Tri-Cities, Kennewick, Richland, Pasco, Washington. I packed up my shit and left in the middle of the night on a bad night, and I just moved here, and the rest is history. But I remember when I moved, I brought a little packet of weed with me, and I just remember being at my dad's house and trying to smoke a joint one night, and I tried to go down to bed, and I started having these weird thoughts, and I had had anxiety before with weed, but I just kind of pushed through it. So when I started using weed frequently, I had a lot of anxiety, kind of, and I would just have these weird, bizarre, and intrusive thoughts. But as I continued to use weed, those things went away for multiple years, except for maybe on the rare occasion. But towards the end of my use of weed, I just kept more frequently getting these feelings of doom and anxiety, and just these weird, uncertain feelings. It's this, you can't put a finger on it. It's this feeling of dread where I felt like something bad was gonna happen, but I just didn't know what. It was this weird, almost existential dread I felt. But anyway, to get back to what I was saying, I smoked that joint at my dad's house, and I laid down in my bed to go to sleep that night, and it was dark, and I just all of a sudden I just got attacked with these weird ass thoughts, and I remember this this tension got into my chest, and I remember my heart rate spiked way up. I got really bad anxiety. At least I felt like I had anxiety in my body, but I was able to calm myself down pretty easily because I knew it was caused by the weed. Obviously, I knew nothing bad was going to happen, so I was able to calm myself down. But at that point, I kind of had a revelation because I had just moved into a new city. I was away from everyone else, and weed was no longer fun for me. It was no longer an escape. It was something that it was starting to cause me pain because I was getting these uncomfortable feelings. I was getting this sense of dread, this anxiety. So that's really how I was able to quit it cold turkey. The way I see it is the universe or God or whatever forced me to quit. It got to the point where I physically could not smoke it anymore. It was pure pain. There was nothing. There was no pleasure at all attached to it. And then I remember meeting more people after that happened to me, and I came to find out that that's a common occurrence of why people stop smoking weed, at least from my experience. I mean, I've met 5 to 10 people that have had the exact same experience I had, and just got to the point where they physically could not smoke the weed anymore because it just wasn't fun. It wasn't something you would want to do. It was like, at that point, if you continued to do it, you were just torturing yourself. So anyway, guys, I know I kind of rambled there a little bit, but I just wanted to be kind of raw and uncut with you guys. That's basically a quick snippet of the history I had with weed, my little dance with Mary Jane. And I just wanted to tell you guys about it because I was stoned pretty much every day for about 4 years. So, weed had a big impact on my life. I had a lot of beautiful experiences with cannabis, marijuana. I had a lot of amazing times hanging out with people, a lot of great intellectual conversations. Um, I do believe there are a lot of positive aspects about weed, obviously. And one quick thing, I don't think any drug is bad. This isn't an anti-drug video. I'm not telling you not to smoke weed. The only thing I know is that it's what makes substances bad is the manner in which they're used and the intent and energy behind the use of them. So heroin or weed or whatever, they're not bad. It's just bad when they're abused. That's my belief, and that's what I've come to know after my personal experience with multiple substances, mainly alcohol and weed. But yeah, guys, I had a lot of great experiences with weed. It was ultimately a negative thing in my life, though, because in retrospect, those 4 years I spent stoned were highly unproductive. Now that I think about it, I think I was in some kind of deep depression or some kind of deep denial of a lot of things. I had some issues growing up as a kid. I experienced some things that kind of messed me up a little bit that I didn't really deal with fully. So I think ultimately weed and my use of other substances for that matter was a way to just kind of escape from myself. But anyway, guys, I have not smoked weed in, let's see, almost 3 years now. So none at all for about 3 years. I totally quit cold turkey. And if anyone out there is watching and you just want to quit, I have a hard time giving you advice because me personally, I feel like I was kind of forced to quit. But if you genuinely want to quit and you're having a hard time, I would say probably talk to someone about it. Try to get a third person perspective of your life. Are you honestly being productive? Are you honestly being on top of your game? Um, are you crushing your goals? Are you even keeping goals? Because when I was getting stoned frequently, I didn't have any goals in life, to be honest. I didn't have any purpose. I didn't have any direction. And I'm not going to go ahead and blame it on the weed. It was obviously because of me. So I'm not going to blame it on the weed and say the reason I wasn't productive is because of the weed. I'm not going to do that. But I would say for anyone trying to quit, just try to get an objective view of yourself. Try to get an objective view of the situation and really try to get down and dirty and figure out if weed is really serving you. Are you abusing it or are you using it? Anyway, guys, thank you for watching this. I hope you all are having a great day, and I hope you guys are entertained by my little story of how I got onto weed and how I got out of weed. So thank you. My voice got a little bit dry towards the end of this, but thanks for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one.